John bid, I think, $3,600 when we got done. One of the guys he was bidding against was his nephew. And his nephew came up and he said, "Hey, I want you to make a knife for my dad." And I said, "Well, I don't do that." He said, "Well, how do I get one for him? He really loves your knives. How do I get one for him?" I said, "Let's go over to John and see if he's okay if I do one for you for the same money." And of course, John was gracious enough to say yes. So the school actually ended up with $7,200 with a $3,600 bid.
So what I think was cool about that though is one, you asked permission from the person who won it because
Yeah.
it's supposed to be, kind of a trophy
Well, and
item.
he owns that 3,600 bought this knife.
Yeah. But then at the same time, when somebody said, "Can I come get one also?" One, you got permission from the other person, but two, then you said that money goes straight to the school too.
He paid the school that night and didn't get the knife for 6 weeks.
Wow.
So I saw him in Safeway and he said, "Hey, how's the knife going?"
There's not a lot of times the school auctions or schools get like bonus after the auction like that. So that's really cool.
So you say that, you're right. I had 2 auctions. They were consecutive auctions where I had a friend of mine that had bought one of my knives, and he said, "Hey, I can't make it to the auction this year. We've got the grandkids so the kids can go, but I want to donate." So he said, "Can you put someone in the crowd to bid for me and bid $100 increments, and I'll go up to $8,500 on a knife. That's how much I'm going to spend at the auction anyway." And so the knife got up to 8,400, and it sold. But before it sold, they said, "Okay, we've got a little twist. Whatever this knife brings up to 8,500, I've got someone that's going to match that."
Wow.
So it was.
That's happened more than once, though, hasn't
That
it?
has happened. Actually, it's happened 3 times. And then I had a guy that I know that lived in Florida. He lives in Florida. Called me up and said, "Hey, I want a knife for my mom." And he said, "Would you build her one?" And I said, "Well, I'll build her one and give it to an auction, and you can bid online on it." And so he did. He found somebody who knew that was going to be in the auction, and they did his bidding. And it was a real small auction. Things were going fairly light price wise, and then all of a sudden, a $4,000 knife sold.
That's
Wow.
crazy. It's neat to watch too, especially when the bidding happens because there's this energy that starts happening, especially if they happen to be across the room from
Oh
each
yeah, and
other.
you're sitting right in the
and
middle.
you're in the middle,
Yeah.
and your head's just going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and so you can watch it go up, up. And a lot of times, there's times that you get a little bit of a lull.
Yeah.
Somebody takes a drink, and then all of a sudden, they're right back to bidding again.
It's interesting. You go to some of these auctions, and they have no alcohol.
Yeah.
And they have low bids, but you bring in the alcohol, and the people get just loose enough to where they're enjoying themselves.
Oh yeah, you should see the stuff we've walked home with this guy. Like all of a sudden, I'm like, "Well, that was great, but we didn't wind up getting anything." And Brian's like, "Actually," and he pulls out the receipt, and I'm like,
It feels like you won at the time.
"You don't win."
It's kind of like going. Yeah, it's kind of like going to
Well,
the.
yes, you did.
It's not like a grabber machine.
Hold on, you can't say you don't win. Now all of a sudden,
Everybody wins. Gary.
Everybody wins. Everybody
wins.
is a winner.
It's all for the kids.
It's all for the kids.
Yeah.
It's all
I
for the
love it.
kids. Yeah.
So you've made over what 115
115
knives. So how much time did you spend on your first knife compared to your 115th knife?
Ooh.
The one that I built for my dad, I think I figured I had about 45 hours into it.
45 hours. Wow.
Yeah, because I had no equipment. I was
Yeah.
doing most of it by hand. The one piece of equipment I did have was an old grinding stone, like you would see in a Western, but it was a downed version. It was only a 16-inch stone,
Yeah.
and so it didn't grind much off. It just put an edge on it. So, but that was the way I shaped the entire knife. That's why it took so long to do it.
So most of it was just you had to start out some lack of equipment, and
My first decent piece of equipment I built.
Really?
I went to Donnie Silvernail at D&W Automotive. Said, "Donnie, I want to make knives, and I need a 2x72 knife grinder. I've got plans here, but I don't have steel, and I don't have a way of cutting." And he just went to town. We were done in a couple hours.
Wow.
He had it all cut out. Said, "Here, go bolt it together." And I'm still using it. It's got a Maytag wash machine motor on it. So I got that from Mr. Fix-It.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now I've got 3 2x72s, and there'll be a time where I've got different belts on them. I'll have all three of them running at the same time, doing the stages of grinding. And then buffing, it's interesting. People say, "Hey, can you take my knife and put a little shine to it with a buffer?" Well, I can, but buffing's the most dangerous part of building a knife.
Really?
And you would think it would be the least, if not way down on the ladder as far as dangerous. But that cloth wheel spins 3,600 RPMs, and when it grabs a hold of steel, it wins.
Oh.
So I've been hurt a couple times making
Have you?
knives. Yeah, I was doing one where I had a long drill bit. I was building an axe, so I wanted to be able to go into the handle quite a ways. And I went up to my drill press and I reached up to kind of I did everything you're not supposed to do.
Did everything you're not supposed to do.
So I've got the elk antler in my hand, and I reach up, and as soon as it touched the drill bit, it was stuck in me, and it's enough to where it stopped the drill press. I had to shut it off.
It was stuck in you?
It was stuck
Inside you?
I took I opened the chuck up. When I stood back, it was still sticking out. I went in the house and said, "Julie, I got a problem, and I got a bad problem." She said, "What?" I said, "I don't know how far in this is. We need to go to the doctor right now."
How have I
She
never
said-
heard this story?
She said, "Well, let me look at it." So I had a cloth apron at that time. She unwinds the cloth apron, and when she gets all the way down, she said, "No, it's stuck in the apron." And she looked, and there was a spot. And so a couple days later, I went to the doctor, and I said, "This isn't healing very well." He said, "Well, let me look at it." He said, "Let me see, how many times did it hit you?" And I said, "Well, just once." He goes, No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It hit you 7 times before it stuck, but it was that fast.
See, you have a
And-
leather apron now, right?
I've got a
Yeah,
leather
I've got a
apron
leather
now.
apron
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So, so we talked about how you.
Oh,
how long?
sorry.
Yeah.
You asked how long does it take to do a knife now?
Yeah, like now.
26 to 28 hours is normal.
That's still a long time for
Yeah.
anybody to. I mean, especially when you're making that many knives for auctions, and auctions happen. They don't come at one time of the year. They all have them staggered
Yeah.
to different times of the year. What do you think? What's the next auction that's coming up?
The one coming up is for Regis St. Mary's, their school auction.
In Staten.
In state, and I have kind of a soft spot in my heart on it because my daughter went to Regis,
Your son went to Regis.
my son went to Regis, nieces and nephews. My dad helped build Regis when it was built back in the 52 or something like that.
Yeah.
Your grandkids go there.
Yeah.
Regis
Oh
St.
yeah,
Mary,
my
yeah.
grandkids going. Yeah. So
Oh,
I
your
can't-
wife over in the corner went there.
I can't look at her. You
I know.
guys said don't look at her. But
Hi, Mom.
but I've got a soft spot in my heart for Regis, and Regis has been such a supporter of my knives. I'll get at some auctions two people bidding against each other. I'll get at Regis, I got 5 or 6 of them bidding against each other, and it's the parent involvement at some of these schools is just amazing. I won't name the one school, but I got asked about doing a knife in one of the schools, not the ones you guys are familiar with. And I said, "What do you know? Do you know much about my knives?" And yeah, we've been to auctions where we've seen them sell. So we know the work you do, and we know how well they're received by the community. And the auction started, and no one bid.
Oh.
And the knife was beautiful. I'll admit it. It was one of my better works. And the auctioneer started out at 1,000, then 500, then 250, then 200, and then 100, and then 50.
Wow.
And there's no bid. And this is a course of about 3-4 minutes, and that $50 there's no bid yet. So finally, the guy that asked me to put a knife in said, "Well, heck, I'll buy it for 50." So he bid. Well, then it started taking off. But when it got to 1,000,
Just stalled out.
it was done.
It's amazing what some people like. They wait on. They don't want to be the first one to make the bid, and then but once it gets established, then people start raising their hands.
Well, but the parent involvement is huge, and you can tell at some schools how solid that is. The auction's coming up, but the event for me to donate is coming up. that school I mentioned to you, they were having trouble selling tickets.
Mm.
So they put a bonus to the teachers saying, if you sell a pair of tickets, I'll give you 2 pair of tickets to do whatever you want with. You can sell them, you can keep them, you can, fill a table, do whatever you want. It got down to 2 nights before the auction, and they had not sold, the entire staff had not sold a pair of tickets yet.
Wow.
They just weren't. Now at Regis, St. Mary's, Staten, Mill City, those schools,
They sell out.
Oh, they're sold out weeks in advance.
Yeah.
And something like that can make or break any future school auctions. If people see, well, I don't want to put anything in this auction if no one's going to bid on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not interested in putting another one in that school.
Yeah.
They asked me later, "Are you interested?" And I said, "Well, no. There's no parent involvement." And they said, "Yeah, we can't get them motivated."
That's sad.
Yeah.
And like Regis, the first auction I was in for Regis, I thought, I wonder where the money's going to go. I know it's going to the general fund, but is it earmarked for anything? And it was part of the money that developed their track.
Oh, that's cool.
So I could see where it was going.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then the next one was they needed a tractor. It was the money was going to go to buy a new tractor for the school.
I'm pretty sure taxes are like that. You know exactly where your tax money's going.
I
You're
want to
like,
know where these dollars
I built
are
that
going.
road. I
Yeah.
built that road right there.
This is Corcoran Road we're driving down.
So you've started out making like the first one would that be considered like a hunter's blade?
Yes, the one that's on the Regis one.
Uh-huh.
If you notice, they're green and gold colored.
I know, I saw that.
Uh,
How do you get
so-
inspiration for the knives that you're going to do? Like what?
It's funny when I start the knife, I don't know where I'm going.
Really?
I don't have a clue where I'm going.
Do you draw it out like on a paper drawing? Or?
No, I draw it out on the blade blank.
Okay.
So I take a piece of usually it's planer blade steel.
Do you have a blade blank?
Yeah,
Yeah, I see it.
I have slicer blade steel from the cannery, but I don't do much with that anymore. This is planer blade steel.
Uh-huh.
So
if someone doesn't know what that is, what is a planer blade steel?
So at the mills, they'll use planer machinery to plane the lumber down.
Oh, okay.
This is where's the camera there?
You might hold
This,
up.
it's sharp.
Don't cut yourself.
I'm not going to cut myself. Ugh. No, just kidding.
So that's where I start. I'll stay with that, and then I go with this. That's the drawing of the knife.
Uh-huh.
I experimented with having a buddy of mine do a plasma cutting.
Yeah.
And he plasma cut out the knife, and then I clean that up. And there's still the next step and drill the holes and then find the handle material that I want to use and see if it's going to impress on that.
Yeah.
The sharpness starts going away.
Yeah, the sharpness is the
And then
Yeah.
you've experimented with the actual handle material too. You've gone from like bone to different types of materials.
yeah. I love working with giraffe bone.
Giraffe bone.
So a buddy, I'll admit, he's a buddy of mine. A buddy of mine says, "What's a handle?" And I said, "Giraffe bone." "Where do you get giraffe?" I said, "Well, they raise them down out of Sile." "They do?" No. And if they did, do we have a 3-legged one running around? Because I've got.
So where do you get the bone material from?
So every year there's a knife show in Eugene, and they bandy back and forth between there and one back east as to which one's the biggest in the United States.
Hmm.
So the one in Eugene last year was the biggest one in the U.S., and this year it looks like it's going to be again. And there are people there from all over the world that come to this to sell or buy. And there's a place called Jant's Supply. They used to be a big seller there. These last couple of years they haven't been there, but there's another company that's there selling these materials, and they have exotic handle material from all over the world. So that's where I get most of it.
But you've
every
also had
year.
people donate it to you as well.
That's on the elk antler.
Yeah.
In fact, I put a call out. I'm almost out of elk antler.
So if anybody has any elk antlers they want to rehome.
Yes, please. I don't have the ability to buy, but I certainly have the ability to accept.
Yeah.
Elk antler if you'd like to donate it, and I'll put a word out at the auctioneers So you get a little credit for it.
Yeah, and you get to see it repurposed into something cool.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to get into knife making, what would you tell them to do?
Find someone they know that makes knives.
Okay.
There are a plethora of books and magazines out there
Mhm.
for how to build knives, and they can take it from knife making for dummies to
Making for dummies.
to the most beautiful finished product you've ever seen.
These knife shows that you've gone to, is it also like a good resource for people to kind of talk with people that are
Oh yes,
experienced?
oh yes, and all but one person has all said the same thing that John taught me, and I say, I don't have any secrets. You want to know something? Ask me. I'll be happy to tell you. There's one guy that goes to the auction. He's known for this. I asked him about stabilizing some bone. Stabilizing is you have the raw bone,
Mhm.
you slice it to size, and then you put it in a pressurized container and you force dye into the crevices. And,
Oh, okay.
and when it's done, it looks much like the black
Okay.
and white one there. That's a stabilized, I did it, but it's a stabilized bone. So I wanted, okay, how do you stabilize? And the guy said, well, that's how I make my living. I said, well, I'm not going to buy any from you, and I'm certainly not going to go in competition with you. I just want it for my own. He said, no, you. I said, well, everyone says I don't have any secrets. He said, I've got a lot of secrets.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm talking to a buddy of mine, Cameron House, who's just an incredible knife maker. And I mentioned, oh, yeah, that's so-and-so. He knew exactly who it was.
Stop.
Yeah.
So just like anything else, everybody's
Yeah.
got their hobbies, and they're
Well, most people look at this and they say, how can we expand the knife makers? We need to bring younger people into
yeah,
making
it's kind of a
knives.
dying art.
It is.
With a lot of just like a lot of things that people have been doing for thousands of years. They haven't a need for it, so it's been kind of dying off. Just like leather makers or like
Yeah.
people who do like woodworking or metalworking. There is a younger generation. I think they're getting back into it for the art form, like such young people like you have gotten into the art
Young,
form
sprightly
of
men.
making knives as just kind of a hobby, like not necessarily like you need it, but it's something in an art form now. And so it's good that hopefully you'll be able to pass that on to someone else, and then they'll do the
Well,
same
we'll
thing.
see if anyone in the family.
Well, your brother, you helped your brother-in-law too, didn't you?
So I'll tell you the story behind that. We were at an auction. You guys got us to go to
Mhm.
the auction. The knife brought pretty low bid,
Mhm.
but it was a basic knife. I didn't have time to put a hunter's blade out there. It was one that we, there was a material that's out there that's bearing material for heavy equipment. And that's what I made the handle out of. Well, after they bought it, they said, yeah, we're going to give this to our son, Jason, for his birthday. And I said, no, you're not. We got to give him a nicer knife than that. So I said, Jeff, what would you think of coming over? And I'll walk you through it, but you'll build the knife. And he did. He came over, I bet it was over a dozen times, and built a beautiful knife for his son.
Kind of like a Crocodile Dundee when he's like, that's not a knife. This
Yeah.
is a knife.
Well, it's very similar to the one that's
I was
out
going to
there.
say, that's what made me
This
think of it.
this big beast here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a large handled knife.
yeah, it is.
And then Dad was telling me yesterday, because he was showing me for holding on to it, like your thumb's supposed to go right there.
And your index finger goes in that
Oh,
lower.
see?
Yeah.
Look at me. I didn't even know. Clearly, I don't knife a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
So I made one for Julie when she was working at Northwest Natural, and it was a letter opener. And she wouldn't take it to work with her because it looked like a knife, and you can't bring. I never thought about it. You can't bring weapons to work.
so I remember you gave me one, and I had it in my car because I'm thinking, oh, if you're ever in an accident, like you have to cut the
Sure.
seatbelt, yeah. And so Brian goes, that's like a weapon you're driving around with. And I was like, no, it's just a knife my dad made me. And
It's
he's
just
like,
a concealed weapon.
yeah, he's like, no, Carrie, that's a concealed weapon. Like you can't just drive around with that in your car. I was like,
you can put it on your little belt loop.
oh, okay.
You
I
could be
didn't
one of
know
those.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. It's always something.
So, well, thank you for coming in
Yeah.
and showing us. I mean, we've seen these, but I think it's good that other people see, hey, there's someone out here making knives, and it's doing good out in the community. It's kind of moved past the hobby form, and
Well, who doesn't want a personalized knife
Yeah.
made for them? Their name, I etched.
I was
the
gonna say
people's-
that's the one thing that you didn't mention is that what they wind up doing to personalize
like
it.
on that the black and white one.
This guy.
So if you look, this is my knife. I keep every 10th one. So Leon Adams, and then I put Adams knives, and I put the month, the year, and what knife number it is. So 1/10/21. And so when a person buys a knife at the auction, I bring the knife home. I've got to put an edge on. I quit putting an edge on before the auction.
Probably a good idea.
Well, I had a guy come up and he says, "Hey, is this thing sharp?" I said, "Yeah, I've got a really good edge on it." He sliced all 3 of his fingers. And he, "Hey, give me a Band-Aid." I said, "Well, I don't pack Band-Aids around."
it's sad you have to do that, but it's
So now I bring them to the auctions and they're not sharp. Yeah.
It's like you'd expect a 5-year-old to be like, not like a grown person.
So I'll take it home, like the one that's over there. I'll take that home. I'll etch their name in it. I'll etch me in the other side, and then I'll build a stand for that. So it can. A lot of people are putting them up on their
yeah.
credenzas, and
So you got the Regis auction. Is that the next one coming up?
yes,
Okay.
that's
End
coming
of-
up.
end
I
of
think
April.
the 26th.
I think it is.
so.
Yeah.
Any
Saturday.
other ones coming up after that?
You know, I have 2 more that are talking about it, but one of them does an auction every other year.
Yeah.
And this isn't the year, but they've got some projects and they network quite a bit. So this gal knows a gal at the Mill City School who knows someone at I'm sure it's still in existence, but the Lourdes Charter School, Lourdes, Lourdes Charter School. She knew someone there. In fact, quick little, do we have time?
Yeah.
Quick little ditty about Lourdes that's where I met the first auctioneer that's ever worked the local circuit and knew the local people. And it's Diane works for him. There's a jewelry store.
Oh,
Harold?
Monty.
Oh, Monty. Yeah.
Monty. So Monty, if you guys don't know him, Monty's blind. Has been since he was a youth.
Which is totally great. He trades coins,
He trades coins.
and he does that by feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he gets up in this auction, and he is in his element.
He's an amazing auctioneer.
He is. He's an incredible auctioneer. And one year they didn't have him there, and I said, well, "Monty, how come he came?" But I said, "How come you're not an auctioneer?" He goes, "My jokes got stale."
Oh.
He says, I'm working on new material."
He's such a nice guy.
Well, it's interesting. I see him at the A&W, and I'll walk by and, "Monty, how you doing?" "I'm good, Leon. How are you?" The
guy's incredible.
Yeah, he is an amazing man.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks for coming in and showing
Yes.
us the knives, showing everybody else out there the knives, because we've seen these, but I think not everybody else knows that this is a thing. And
A lot of people. What the cool thing is when all of a sudden I'll go somewhere and people are like, "Hey, I was just at the auction.
Yeah.
Your dad's knife did amazing there." And most times I'm like, "You had an auction? I didn't know there was another."
So
Because there's so many of them.
yeah,
So I've got one in Florida, one in Kansas, 3 in Oklahoma, one in
Are you talking about
southern-
knives?
Yeah,
Okay.
knives that
I
people
thought you were
have.
talking
I
about
thought you were
auctions.
auctions.
It's
I
like,
was
oh,
like, when did you start
I'm
traveling?
sorry. These are knives that I've sold and where they've gone to.
Oh, cool.
wow.
So
So you're worldwide now.
Worldwide. Prestige worldwide.
I haven't gone across the oceans yet. I'm still
It's
just.
coming.
It's coming.
It's
Yeah.
coming.
People don't throw away knives; they go out there. So that's a good way for you to kind of live on, and
There
through
you
your
go.
knives. And so, what is your end goal here? What do you want? Is it like a number you want to hit as far as knife count or money that you've raised?
I wanted to hit 200 knives and 250,000, with one or the other.
All right, that's doable,
And
right?
I think I'm going to be chasing the 250 more than the 200 knives.
I don't think so. I think you're gonna hit the 250 before.
That's
you...
what I'm saying.
Oh,
I'm gonna
yeah.
yeah, I think I may be going 250 before I do the 200 knives.
Oh, I got it. So I heard it wrong. Sorry.
All right, well,
So one we haven't shown, and I'd like to just show it.
yeah,
This is one of my favorite knives.
it's kind of a new one you're getting into, which is I really like
Yeah.
that one. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
you have one close to it.
Mhm.
Brandon has one close to it.
For people that don't know, Brandon's my brother.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and that's made of a wood called wine wood, and it's a veneer wood, but it's a natural veneer,
Yeah.
and so you get different layers as you're grinding on it. And I think it's
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
knife.
I like the sheath too.
Okay, now I'll shut up.
No, you're good.
Okay. Well, again, and how can people like reach you as far as if they have an auction that's coming up? Do you have
can
a
people
website or do you have an email?
Email me at Leon Leon at Adams Knives ADAMSKNIVES.com.
Perfect.
Or they can call me 503-551-3913. I'll
Perfect.
always take a phone call.
All right.
And if anyone wants to bandy things around or see if it's something for them to do to make knives, they can walk in my shop and we'll walk through some stuff and see if it's in interest.
All right.
love
Well,
it.
Leon, we'll see you again when we go pick up the kids at some point.
Yeah.
So
Probably see you in a few hours.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming out
Thank
and
you, guys.
showing us everything you do.
Thank you for everything you guys do. These podcasts are incredible.
Thank you.
Aw, Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.